to The Bible Guy, where we equip God's people to share. Start of a new series. I mentioned it recently. It's top 10 objections to the Bible. So it's going to be a top 10 series of objections that you hear to the Bible. I'll give you some and you'll think, why is that in his top 10? Or why has he not mentioned that in his top 10? Please let me know. Let me know as we go along where you feel like, oh, I wish that one was in there. I've heard that one more than he said it's been said. Today, number 10, and we work our way back to number 1. This is going to seem like a strange one. Why are dinosaurs not mentioned in the Bible? Why are dinosaurs not mentioned in the Bible? Many people are maybe saying, dinosaurs? That's not an objection I've heard so often. I have actually heard this objection several times, and one of the reasons why I mentioned it, I suppose for me it's a little bit more of a fun one, you could say, is because of my own previous thinking. Once upon a time I had a conversation with another fellow believer who talked about dinosaurs. He'd been to the museum recently and he said to me about dinosaurs. And I said to him, you know what, I don't believe in dinosaurs because God didn't mention them in the Bible. So you know what, it is something thrown out there by Christians or non-Christians as a potential objection to what people see as the truth. So why is there no mention of dinosaurs in the Bible? Well, because again, if we feel like they're not mentioned in some people's eyes, it discredits them. Because they're not mentioned, it discredits the Bible. So we've got to say the evidence is pretty comprehensive for dinosaurs, that they lived 240 to 65 million years ago. We see them in museums. They've been found on most continents around the world. I read a book with my daughter last night about the land of the dinosaurs. It's exciting. Kids love to see it. And as I say, we've all been to museums where we've seen them. So what I'm going to look at today is, well, why have they not been mentioned in the Bible first of all? And then what I'm going to do at the end, and I'll do this in probably all my videos of my top 10, is an acronym for you serious students out there that want to remember the information, or at least some of it anyway. So, 3 points today as to why the dinosaurs are not mentioned in the Bible as an objection to the Bible. First one, it's this viewpoint that it's an objection to the Bible is based on a mistaken belief. So most people believe that when they see the Bible, they feel like most Christians subscribe to a young earth theory. In other words, they believe the universe has only been created about 6,000 years ago. That creates a problem, and why they then feel dinosaurs aren't mentioned is because we hold to something that isn't true. In other words, a young earth, it's only 6,000 years old, too young to have dinosaurs roaming around 240 million years ago. Personally, the reason I say this is I personally don't subscribe to the young earth theory that it's only 6,000 years old. I personally believe that the term days in Genesis, which the Hebrew word is yom, indicates a metaphorical reference to a period of time and not necessarily a literal 24-hour day as such. So personally, I've always held to that. I'm not getting into all the specifics of that now. That's probably one of the biggest questions in Christendom that exists, but it's generally an in-house conversation amongst Christians. I don't have any issues with those who hold to a young earth. I personally don't subscribe to that and don't feel any need to subscribe to that based on reading Genesis. A Hebrew linguist, Gleason Archer, wrote, on the basis of internal evidence, it is this writer's conviction that Yom in Genesis could not have been intended by the Hebrew author to mean a literal 24-hour day. Many Christians over the years have not subscribed to a 24-hour period of time being the days in Genesis. So it's in the house of discussion. It's just meant to say the first point is it's often based on a mistaken belief that all Christians hold to a young earth. It's simply not the case. The second thing about why dinosaurs are not mentioned in the Bible is, why does God need to mention them? Let's think about that for a moment. Why does God need to mention them? There's many things that exist that are not written about in Scripture, that we don't have details about. Bacteria, trilobites. We don't hear about other planets described in Scripture that we know exist, and we see them. Scientists have told us, and we've seen the footage of them. Even recently, we've seen Mars in the sky. It was in this orbit just between the sun and the earth. Incredibly, the other night, we could see it in the night sky. So we know they exist, but they've not been mentioned in Scripture. Of other animals that we know exist, but they've not specifically been mentioned in Scripture. So we know that other things exist, but haven't been mentioned. So why would it need specifically to mention dinosaurs? Another point is the Jews had no word for dinosaur. They had no word in their language for dinosaurs. So why would God want to mention something that he knew would in the future not exist to a people who had no vocabulary experience of them? Why would he need to mention it to them, as that would be potentially confusion and unnecessary? It's a theological document. It's not there a scientific document to explain all the facts of life, but a theological document to communicate God's plans towards man. So again, why does the Bible need to mention them is the second thing. So based on a mistaken belief that we will hold a young earth, why does the Bible need to mention them at all? And the third point then, interestingly, have a think about this is, how do we know they're not mentioned? How do we know that the Bible does not mention dinosaurs? I will include an article I've wrote just to attach onto this video today, but the point I want to make here is the Bible could indeed be referring to dinosaurs. Genesis 1 verses 24 to 25 tells us, and God said, let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, the livestock, the creatures that move along the ground, and the wild animals, each according to its kind. And it was so. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. It was indeed good to see all the animals. But the specific creatures that are not named here, all animals are not described by name here. So it could indeed potentially be referring to dinosaurs within this particular passage. All the animals and creatures are not described by name. Another passage that some of us may know with the oldest chronological book of the Bible, in Job chapter 40 and 41, there's two types of creatures mentioned here that many people believe is indeed referring to dinosaurs. Chapter 40 and chapter 41 describe two creatures. One's the behemoth, and the 41 it talks about the Leviathan. Some people thought it's potentially a crocodile, but some things don't completely measure up there. They're described as beasts of the land and sea. But again, no one over the years has been able to adequately explain. And we'll see now in chapter 40, verses 15 to 24, it talks about the behemoth here. Look at the behemoth. Chapter 40, verse 15, which I have made along with you, and which feeds on grass like an ox. What strength it has in its loins, what power in the muscles of its belly. Its tail sways like a cedar, the sinews of its thighs are close knit. Its bones are tubes of bronze, its limbs like rods of iron. It ranks first among the works of God, yet its maker can approach it with its sword. The hills bring it their produce, and all the wild animals play nearby, under the lotus plants that lies, hidden among the reeds in the marsh. And it just goes on to say in verse 24, can anyone capture it by the eyes, or trap it, or pierce its nose? It's talking about the behemoth. It's talking about how it's the majestic in all God's creation, how powerful it is, how it rules, if you like. And it describes details here that other people cannot match up with other animals. It describes its tail is likened to a cedar tree. So that would rule out the elephant and the hippo because it has tails which are thinner than that. So that would rule that out. There's many other features that have been looked at here, and these creatures don't adequately match anything which exists today. So what does that mean? Some people feel that dinosaur description fits best. Some people don't subscribe to that, and I'll leave it up to yourself. The point I'm making here is not to say that these are dinosaurs, and I'm not even telling you that the earth is definitely old. But these are things that are worth thinking about. The Bible could indeed be referring to dinosaurs, and I certainly wouldn't, after reading this, completely rule that out. So the first thing is it's based on a mistaken belief that all Christians subscribe to the young earth. The second thing is, well, why does it need to mention them? The Hebrew language has no word for dinosaurs, and there's many other things that weren't mentioned. The third thing, as I say, was we can't say that they weren't mentioned. There's many scriptures which could indeed be referring to dinosaurs. Serious students out there, I say serious, this doesn't take an awful lot of effort, but one of the things I like to do in order to remember these details, or at least some of them anyway, is to come up with an acronym. An acronym for each point. My acronym for this is MAP. I picture a map where on the end of that map, I'm thinking of Jurassic Park or something here, where you at the end of that map you see dinosaurs. MAP. First point, MAP, mistaken belief. The idea that they're not mentioned as a problem is a mistaken belief that we all hold to a young earth when that's not the case. A stands for the absence of a word for dinosaurs. It would be unnecessary for God to have mentioned them specifically by name as humans have given them. So the absence of a word in the Hebrew language. And then P stands for potential reference. Job, Genesis 1, but particularly Job, there is a potential reference in Scripture which could indeed be referring to dinosaurs, and also that reference in Genesis 1. So that's MAP, that's an acronym. That's number 10 on our series of Objections to the Bible. I'll be back again most likely next week with number 9, Objections to the Bible. We'll let you know what that is again very soon. It's very likely to be that the road is too narrow. Described by Scripture that the road is too narrow. If you've liked this video today, please hit the like button. Please hit share to subscribe to That Bible Guy. Hit share, pass it on. Subscribe to That Bible Guy. If you'd like to donate to this ministry or support the ministry, please check out the link on Patreon. Thanks so much for your support. Back again very soon. Let's get his word out there.